Thanks everyone for joining this webinar on the market forces changing payroll. My name is Jason Lee and I'm the CEO of DailyPay. DailyPay is a technology company that provides a free software solution to any employer so that its employees can access their earned and unpaid wages on their schedule. When employees can control the timing of their pay, they can pay their bills on time, avoid late fees, and reach their financial goals. Today, I want to talk about a movement that is happening across corporate America. From a 100-person cleaning franchise all the way to Walmart, it is a movement that has begun, and now that it has, is unlikely to stop. It is a movement that represents an inevitable and inexorable change in how our employees view their pay and how payroll is run by all of us. Our company DailyPay was born out of this movement. Today, employees want access to their earned wages. They want it on their schedule, and they want it instantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They also want it where they want. They don't want to be forced into using some type of special pay card just to receive their pay. And while all of you know the challenges with executing all of this, it doesn't change the fact that this is what our employees want. And as you'll see shortly, this is what our employees are coming to expect. Now, there are several market forces that have conspired to put us on this path to change. Interestingly, none of these market forces have anything to do with payroll. These seemingly unrelated, yet contemporary market forces are colliding today to create cosmic change in our industry. We are in a once-in-a-lifetime moment of change for our industry that is culminating in a change so significant that it has become a movement. A DailyPay movement. Now, there are 3 sections to this webinar today. First, I'll walk through the market forces and how these are all coming together to force change in our industry. Second, I'll describe how a separate set of market forces are also coming together to create the ideal solution for companies to implement DailyPay, specifically one that does not lead to any incremental work or process changes at a company. And third, we'll talk about how to implement a program like this to the extent that you're interested. But before we get started, we're going to do a quick survey on this webinar. Now, I'm going to ask 2 questions, and the first person to get it right will be receiving a prize from DailyPay. Now, of course, for those of you who are listening to the recorded version of this, you unfortunately won't be eligible to participate, which is a good reminder for us all to participate in webinars in the live version. So for those of you who are on the webinar right now, just pull up your polling widget, and we're going to ask this very simple question. There are 120 million adults in the United States. How many of them are Netflix subscribers? And we've just opened up the polling. Go ahead. Okay, wow, that was very, very quick. Looks like we've already identified our winner here, and the answer is 57 million subscribers. And so congratulations. I won't give any last names here, but congratulations to Jane, and we'll make sure we coordinate our prize with you. Hopefully there was no Googling going on while you were in your offices. Now, the second question. There are 14,000 McDonald's in the United States. Our second polling question is, how many Blockbusters are there in the United States? And we will open up the polling right now. Okay, we're seeing a couple of answers here. Some of them aren't accurate. Okay. Give you a few more seconds. There we go. We've got our first Correct answer. And the answer is, from Jim, there are 8 blockbusters in the United States. That is an excellent guess right there. So, 8 blockbusters left. I mean, blockbusters today have become such an unusual sighting that they've actually become a bit of a trend on social media. This just happened. Who knew that this relic still existed? And of course, Throwback Thursday, where this individual felt the need to take a selfie at one of these 8 blockbusters. You know, in 2000, Blockbuster had over 9,000 locations, and they were serving 3 million customers a day. You know, people thought that driving to a store to rent a VHS was the way in which we would all consume movies forever. But something happened, or better put, a series of something happened. Video format began to shift towards a cheaper and lighter format in DVDs. The internet became more widely accessible. The rise in e-commerce made it normal and safe to consume goods and services online. And cable companies built infrastructure to enable streaming. And lastly, there was a move towards the use of big data and algorithms in consumer products. Now, when you look at all of these factors on the screen, none of them are specifically about the consumption of movies, but that is precisely the point. Unrelated market forces collided in the case of the home movie business to create an environment that led to a fundamental change in the way that we consume movies today. Now, give credit to Netflix for having a great company, but my observation is that Netflix is the product of an environment that led to an inevitable change in the way that we consume movies. We believe that we are seeing something similar today, seemingly unrelated market forces around the macroeconomy, technology, and generational shifts in consumer behavior are all colliding to create this environment for change in the way that we consume our pay. Said simply, there's a lot of stuff that all of us don't think about every day that is leading us, and in some places has already led us, to a seminal event. And so let's get started with this first section, which is the market forces leading us to DailyPay. And here, there are 5 market forces I want to highlight. And the first is that it's just really hard to hire right now. Now, all of your colleagues in human resources will likely tell you that this is the tightest labor market that we've had in years, specifically since 1973. The unemployment rate is now below 4%, and the percent of open positions is around 6.5%. Almost half of employers are reporting that they have jobs to fill, and to make it more challenging, just under half of employees are saying that they will leave their current job. Now, normally, low unemployment has a very easy solution, which is to pay people more. It's basic supply and demand. But today, that's actually not happening. Since the recession, inflation has remained largely flat in the United States. In fact, this is the first time in 6 recessions that we have seen such low inflation following a recession. How this impacts wages is that if companies can't raise prices, then they can't afford to pay their people more. Wage growth has stagnated and has grown less than even the dismal rate of inflation we've seen. For example, in the last 2 years, we've seen the median wage increase by 1.5%, which is less than the 1.8% increase in inflation. All of this culminates in a very difficult hiring environment. It's just hard to find people right now. And once you do find them, you can't pay them more to hire them or pay them more to keep them. This unique time in the overall macroeconomy that's been marked by low unemployment and low inflation makes it really hard to recruit and retain employees. Employers are desperate to find some way to use pay, but not the amount, but rather the frequency to accomplish their hiring goals. The need to find some way to attract and retain workers in an unprecedented tight labor market is the first market force that is leading us to a DailyPay movement. The second market force is the growing epidemic of financial insecurity amongst our employees. Financial insecurity typically results from two causes. First, a lack of savings, and second, a lack of earnings. According to a recent study by Bankrate, 34% of Americans do not have a single dollar saved, and 35% have less than $1,000 saved. That means a combined 69% of the workforce can't afford an unexpected expense. For example, a flat tire, an unexpected medical visit, or a broken refrigerator. In addition, today's consumer-facing technology makes it harder to save. For example, the minimum Uber fare alone is 260% higher than the cost of public transportation. Starting with credit cards, to Apple Pay, all the way to in-app purchases, consumers no longer even have to reach into their pocket to pay for goods or services. And now this inability to save hits our lower income workers the hardest. Roughly 72% of the minimum wage bucket has less than $1,000 in savings. Now you may wonder, so what? So what if my employees have a lack of savings? Why does that impact us as employers, and more relevantly, us as payroll professionals? The connection between a lack of savings and us as employers is felt when an unexpected expense occurs. The Aspen Institute conducted a study where they determined that 4 in 10 families have made some type of extraordinary payment of over $1,500 in the last 12 months. Those expenses were typically in the form of medical, auto, or tax-related expenses. Now, when you combine this with the previous fact pattern, that due to increased spending habits, 70% of Americans have $0 in savings, you can see why it is that so many of our employees are facing a profound degree of financial insecurity. When employees can't meet their financial needs on time, they wind up quitting. And when they quit, this creates massive expense for our employers. This growing epidemic of financial insecurity amongst our employees, the inability to withstand unexpected expenses, has led many companies to seek an alternative. The second market force that is leading us to a DailyPay movement is the need for companies to provide a greater degree of financial security to their employees. By providing access to earned wages, an employee can deal with unexpected expenses prior to payday, and in so doing, increase the likelihood of that employee staying longer at the company. The third market force is the change in payment speed brought about by the rise in instant payment technology. The payment technology landscape has changed and is changing immensely. Where most of us are familiar with the notion of next business day ACH, money can now be transferred instantly. For example, here at DailyPay, we've built technology which enables us to send money instantly to any bank account, any pay card, or any cash card instantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The technology that we've built is outside of the banking network and the pay card network, and so we aren't reliant on batch processing, ACH, or forced into using any specific type of pay card. If you aren't familiar with apps such as Zelle or Venmo, these are peer-to-peer payment apps that enable you to send money to another person instantly. In fact, across these two apps, close to 100 million people sent over $100 billion last year. The majority of users are millennials and Gen Z, but there is clear adoption across all generations. When surveyed, most were using instant payment apps due to convenience. Now, if you look at the bottom of this slide, you'll see the survey results of how people felt once they sent or received money instantly. Now, I'll draw your attention to the left and right-hand boxes. Efficient and confident. Oftentimes when I speak about topics such as instant payments, I often get lots of eye rolls and folks telling me, well, that's just another terrible thing about millennials. Now, they have no patience. They want everything instantly. And I do think that there is some truth to that. But I'd like to throw out a different theory, which is this is less about impatience and more about transparency. In a generation where everything can be enabled through technology, instant is less about speed, but more about transparency. The only way for me to achieve transparency is to see the result instantly. In fact, this is such the expectation that if you look at this second box to the left, 38% of those surveyed, almost 4 out of 10 people, think it is normal for money to travel instantly. It is against this backdrop that the expectations are now being set. Why can't I get my pay instantly? Why can't I see it instantly? I worked for it. I know it's mine. Why can't I have access to it? Don't tell me about ACH windows or that I have to use a special pay card. The third market force that is leading us to a DailyPay movement is that technology is now available to send money instantly. And this expectation is now rolling over to payroll. The next market force is the changing workforce and generational views on work, namely millennials and Gen Z. By 2020, millennials and Gen Z will represent almost 3/4 of the workforce. 77% of millennials have said that having more flexibility in work, including hours, would make them more productive. 20% of them have said that they would in fact trade a promotion for a more flexible work-life balance. And it is against this backdrop that millennials demand that there be flexibility in pay to match that flexible work schedule. And I think this quote sums it up. Younger generations become frustrated quickly when companies fail to address simple problems with obvious technical solutions. We have a generation of workers who first want to have more flexibility in their hours, and second, don't think it's a big deal to ask for pay to match that flexibility. This is the generation that is growing up assuming that it was always the case that you could order a taxi or a hot meal or communicate with someone halfway around the world through your phone. For millennials and Gen Z, there is just too much dissonance between that level of technology-powered convenience and batch payroll to exist for very much longer. The fourth market force that is leading us to a DailyPay movement is the generational shift in the workforce who simply expects instant pay as they leverage technology to achieve that same instant result in every other facet of their lives. The final market force is the rise in the so-called gig economy. Now, have you ever wondered to yourself, where did all of these people who are now driving for Uber even come from? In 1989, freelancers, or 1099 workers, comprised 6% of the workforce. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that 43% of Americans will in some way be supplementing their income through some type of freelance work. Now, as it relates to the gig economy, 81% of these on-demand workers, such as Uber drivers, have said that they will continue working some type of on-demand job after trying it out. And almost half of them said they might even increase the number of hours they are putting in as freelance workers. Now, why is this rise in the gig economy relevant for payroll? It is because there's a very interesting trend in the gig economy. And that is, it is the first major industry to convert to a daily pay basis. Drivers on almost every major platform, including Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Grubhub, Instacart, currently do or are planning to have some type of daily pay access for their workers. In fact, many of these workers access their daily pay through our company, DailyPay. This is one of the primary reasons why these companies have been able to grow their employee base so quickly. Uber has 4 million drivers in the United States, and the rest ain't that shabby either, each averaging over 100,000 workers each. It is a well-known fact that one of the best reasons to work for one of these companies is the availability of instant pay. If you took a ride from the airport to a hotel in the last couple of weeks, that driver could cash out instantly after he dropped you off. And while these technology companies in the gig economy may seem like they're on a different planet, many of our employees are already likely moonlighting as one of theirs. If you employ hourly workers, you know that, and in so doing, enjoying daily pay. Excuse me. And so if you employ hourly workers, it's probably very likely that our employees already know about this benefit. So we've established that there are market forces that are colliding to lead us to this daily pay movement. Now, the other half of this is that there are also market forces colliding to thankfully make the implementation of daily pay easy for you and your employees. There's good news here. You as a company can offer daily pay to your employees without changing anything about your current payroll process. In the next section, I'll talk about daily pay as a company more to illustrate how these market forces have collided to allow us to offer our product in a way that is most advantageous for HR and payroll professionals. Our product requires no change to the payroll process, including the timing of your payroll funds, the way that you run payroll, or even your current payroll provider. So first, let me start with actually the timing of payroll funds. The first market force is that the world is awash with liquidity today. With interest rates at an all-time low, there are multiple sources of funds available to a company like a DailyPay to be able to fund all of the employee advances without requiring any change to the company's current timing of payroll funds. And so the first market force, which leads to a seamless implementation for payroll, is in fact the availability of funding. That means that offering DailyPay does not require you to pre-fund any payroll, so your treasury folks can relax. DailyPay funds all advances before payday and is then repaid through the payroll process on the actual payday. Second, the rise in machine learning provides a backdrop against which we can make pay available to the employee without confirming every last punch on his time card. For those of you who are employing shift-based or hourly workers, You know that no company can approve the hours on a daily basis. But the good news is you don't have to offer DailyPay. We utilize machine learning to be able to spot errors in an employee's time clock, so we don't make those funds available on that particular day. Importantly, we stand behind every payment, so we never ask the company for any money back. And so the second market force, which makes for an easy implementation, is that machine learning has enabled us to offer our service without requiring you, the company, to change the way that you finalize time punches. Through analyzing past data, we're able to make funds available to your employees without incurring material risk that we may have overfunded the employee due to an erroneous or fraudulent punch. Finally, the cloud is the last market force, which allows us to scale infinitely and to integrate with any payroll systems. Our technology operates like a skin on top of existing payroll systems so that the company does not need to rework its payroll system or processes in order to offer DailyPay. We sit in between your existing payroll system and the employee, so there is no integration or systems replacement required. In addition, it enables us to work with any payroll system, regardless of the end provider. This ability to create scalable technology through the cloud without any on-site installations is the final market factor which leads to an easy implementation of DailyPay. This is what enables DailyPay to offer DailyPay, what enables us to offer DailyPay with no change to your existing payroll system. So, to wrap up, on this webinar, we've gone through the different market forces that are leading the market to this movement, to a DailyPay movement, and the need for HR and payroll and C-suite executives to think about ways in which we can use the frequency of pay to continue to attract employees and to give employees what they want. In addition, we provided a bunch of market factors which enable us to see how easy it is for you as a company to offer and to implement DailyPay at your company. I want to thank all of you for participating in today's webinar. In addition, thank you to our sponsors, American Payroll Association, and our hosts, for having us on this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. And with that, we'll wrap up here. Thanks very much, everybody.
Hi, my name is Mitchell and I work for America, and I've been here for about 2 years now.
Hi, my name is Tamika. I am an agent here at America in Mahwah, New Jersey, and I've been working here for about roughly 8 months. I started using DailyPay because I knew I would have access to my funds before my payday.
So I signed up for DailyPay, and my mom's birthday was Friday, and I actually didn't get paid until the following Tuesday. My mom really needed a phone. I was only $60 short, and that's when I thought of using the DailyPay.
One day, my son, he's asthmatic. I got a call that he didn't have any more medicine at school. My son needs that medicine to breathe, but I didn't have the money to get the medicine. I used the DailyPay.
I logged in, selected the amount, and then selected the debit card that I wanted it to go to.
I did an instant payment and I was able to get my son his medicine. It's instantaneous, very easy.
Right after that, I was like, hey, Mom, let's go ahead and get this phone. She bursted into tears. She hugged me. It has come in handy, either when I needed gas or either when I needed to get that gift from my mom.
We all do not have a support system. So just to be able to get money, before your paycheck is wonderful. But I got the medicine, it worked. And I just want to thank DailyPay so much because without that, my baby really could have not been here with me.
I really appreciate it a lot that America has partnered with DailyPay